This is A Voice, a podcast with Dr. Gillyanne Kays and Jeremy Fisher.
This is A Voice.
Hello and welcome to This is A Voice, Season 11, Episode 9.
The podcast where we get vocal about voice.
I'm Jeremy Fisher.
Well, I'm Dr. Gillyanne Kays, and we are continuing to be vocal about musical theatre education with Kevin Michael Cripps.
Welcome back, Kevin.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be back today. Hello.
So let's launch straight in with the next question. Oh, there was a point that we made, 20 years ago, where you were talking about giving 110%. And I said I had two opposing thoughts on this one.
Yes. Yeah.
Or giving 100% all the time. As a student, road one is you need to be able to calibrate how much you give. And that anybody who says I want 100% all the time is lying to you.
Yes.
Because they don't.
No.
They really don't want 100% all the time. Otherwise, it would be absolutely manic full on the entire time.
Vulnerable. Yes.
You'd either end up being a wreck or you'd be a serial killer. It's like there are nothing in between. So one of the things is calibrating. And yes, I want you to be able to access that 100%, whatever you think 100% means. Because it could be, I want you to be really powerfully internal. It could be, I want you to be very loud. I want you to go and strangle somebody. It could be anything.
Yeah.
But so route one is I want you to be able to calibrate, but I need you to be able to hit that 100% on cue. Even though it's not 100%, but don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
No, we don't say.
And the other version is actually the one that I did at college, which is I am going to put my all into absolutely everything I do because I want to build stamina.
Heard that one.
And no, but it actually worked for me.
It did, yes.
Because I ended up when I was at college, I was doing accompaniment. So I was a collaborative pianist for 3 years. And I did every concert I could get my hands on. So I was learning massive amounts of repertoire. I was getting used to being in public. I was getting used to playing piano. And I did it all full out, as it were. And it stood me in good stead now because here I am 40 years later and I'm still using repertoire that I was playing at college.
Yeah.
And I know where it is and I know how to work it. So there's two versions for me. The danger of going full out all the time is that you don't actually rest.
Yeah, absolutely. You're really talking about creating a way to get to know yourself and to get to know your boundaries. And I like this. There's a couple of things I'd like to use together in this area.
Go for it.
I like the idea of creating frameworks. Let's go too far for a second. Just this once. Let's make this crazy sound. Let's make this sound, and let's go too far. What do you take from that? What do you feel? What do you notice? And then I like to do the body mapping sort of work. I like the idea of on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being holy heck, that was a lot of work. I don't know if I can sustain that. 1 being lump of you jello on the floor, no bones. That was so easy. Where do you sit in that spectrum? So then we go to that full opposite 10, and then we go down to the 1 and we compare and we go, let's see if we can find maybe a 5 or a 6 or a 4 or something. And then the conversation is, what did you feel? Where do you feel the best? Where do you feel that you are the most in control? Where do you feel that you are sustainable? Maybe it's the 4, maybe it's the 7. Well, that's individual to the student. And then we go, okay, now this gives you something to practice with. Can you memorize your 7? Can you remember what a 6 felt like? And then every now and then maybe give yourself a 10, but don't do it often so that you have that to compare. And then recognize that as you grow and develop, as your musculature grows, as your skill grows, as your experience grows, that those effort levels are likely to change. What once felt like a 9, maybe now actually is a 7, and you have to be aware of what that is. And I think whether we're talking about the 100% or 10 out of 10, it really is really the same thing. The idea is you are getting to know what are the limits, what's too much, what's not enough, and where's the middle space and how does that move? And then you can translate that into your other work as well. You can take it into other aspects of your work, not just singing.
Love that.
I think it's so interesting what you've talked about here because I'm immediately seeing that in a functional aspect as well, which is in terms of how flexible you are across that middle zone between the 1 to 10 space. That is actually what gives you the security blanket, so that on your lowest common denominator days, you can go out there and you will still deliver something. And maybe you'll be around the 4 or 5 space, but it works well. And on your good days, you're going to be delivering maybe the 7, 8, or even possibly a 9. But if that mid zone, and we're not talking about mix here, people, if we have flexibility within that mid zone, that is really going to help us with sustainability and with longevity.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, I often talk about the Plan B singing, the Plan B presentation, and the Plan B sort of starts, the conversation comes out of, oh, it's hay fever season. My voice is not responding the way it does when it's not hay fever season. Oh, I've got a cold, or my life is heavier right now if something personal has happened, whatever the situation is. That sometimes we have to change that effort level to accommodate where we are. So we're normally as a 6, you're right, absolutely. I have to have knowledge of what a 4 is, that I can trust, that I feel still connected to the work, that I feel that I'm still in control of what it is that I'm doing.
Yes.
And do you know, it's hard to convince people of that. I'm sure you've experienced that, where convincing people that a Plan B isn't giving up, Plan B isn't failure.
It's not cheating.
It's not cheating. That's right. You know, that this is a really wonderful tool to have in your back pocket. I look, it's hello listeners, it's me sat here no longer performing, and I have to say, boy, there are lots of things that I say that I didn't practice when I was a performer. But you know how easy it is for me to sit out here and say, hey, Jeremy, just trust your Plan B. It's okay. It's great. It's more than enough. And to get people to believe that sometimes is really hard. Again, it comes back to that I want the industry to like me and cast me people paid money. It's the whole people-pleasing thing.
I want to talk about beliefs, because I'm so glad you've gone here. It's one of my things. So many people, I mean, we all carry beliefs around with us, because part of the power of belief is that it enables you to get through life. And you often will sit on and rely on your beliefs in order to get you through a situation. I think the really interesting place, and I think anybody who is teaching artists of any kind will realize this, whether they do it consciously or unconsciously, is that we all carry beliefs, and sometimes those beliefs work and sometimes they get in the way.
Yeah.
And we do a whole radial of, in fact we do 2 radials of all the things that you can do as a singer and all the things that you carry, and belief is the strongest one, because you can hit a belief in a student and nothing you say is going to change that belief. Nothing. And so that belief will always override whatever it is that you're doing. And it's why I'm connecting 2 things together. I love calibration. I love the idea that calibration gives you alternatives. Calibration gives you a whole, not just one thing that works, but a whole range of things that work. And when you are on board with calibration, it can help you go, the belief that I have is too rigid. You know, there are many more versions of this belief that I can play with, and then the belief starts to lose its grip on you, and you become more creative, you become more open, you become more aware of what you're doing. And I absolutely love that. I just wanted to link those 2 together.
Oh, I love that too. Do you know, in a way, you're also talking about actor superstitions.
Yes.
Yeah,
you know,
good point.
where this is my belief because this is what my experience has been, and now I treat it like a religion or a superstition, and letting go of, sorry for this analogy, letting go of a religion or letting go of a superstition is really hard.
Yes.
It's really hard because you've learned to trust it,
And often people,
the ground feels like it's falling apart.
Yeah, and often people aren't even aware of it. So that's the thing. Whereas once you're able to unpack it, or because as a teacher or a coach holding the space, I think it's very important that you don't immediately challenge or contradict that belief. You, as a trainer, you need to be curious about it and say, well, tell me more about that. How would it be if... And what Jeremy's offering is options within that belief.
Yes, and that's exactly it. And options within that belief is that I think is the right way to go.
Yeah.
Because if we say, oh, stop believing that, we're dismissing their experience.
Yeah, you can't take that away from them. That's not appropriate.
That's it. Do you know what I have to say? I'm guilty of little moments of that. There's always Oh, there's always a day somewhere where you're working with students who you as the teacher are feeling, yeah, you are doing it. You're connecting the dots. It's not maybe consistent yet, but you're doing it, and I am so proud of what you're doing. But then the student tries it and it's inconsistent, and they make the face. Maybe there's a tear or two. Often it's a few 4-letter words. This sort of thing, and you think, don't yuck my yum. I'm really enjoying what you're doing, and I'm excited to celebrate where you're at, which includes the moments when it is unstable. And I think that those self-judgment moments come back to what you were just saying, Jeremy, about their beliefs and what they feel they should be accomplishing. Maybe that's in comparison to their peers or what they think others want from them. I don't know. That's for them to know. But gosh, it's challenging for us as teachers to not one day want to throw our hands up in the air and say, stop, I wish you could see yourself the way I see you. They have to have their experiences.
can we-
They have to have
And that's circling back to what you said about your small group sessions, where they're with their peers and they get that feedback, they get that reflection from someone else saying, well, actually, that one worked really, really well. I loved the way you do that. Because it's that thing about, it's how the brain processes. You do something. And because we are very driven as performers, and often as teachers, we're driven as well. We want to get through the lesson. We want to really give them value. And they don't take those, what is it? Kitty Bertolini talks about the 3-second rule. Shut the fuck up for 3 seconds as a teacher and maybe as a performer. Allow those 3 seconds when you did something
to register.
Register so that the brain can register the new behavior. How was that? How was that?
I got very excited about this.
Yeah.
I want to talk about one of the roles of a teacher, which I think is rare in the whole sequence of the people that student will work with. It's so clear to me that one of the roles of the teacher is to recognize where someone is on a scale, on a standard, on a level of experience, and to get them from A to B, or at least show them how they can get from A to B rather than dragging them with you. There's something about recognition of someone's level. And then a really good teacher has the ability to break something down, and it can be, I don't care, it can be instructions, it can be literal stuff, it can be imagery, it can be feel, I don't care what it is. But the point is that they do steps. So they will see that this person is at position A and they want to be at position B, or they need to be at position B, or there is a requirement for them to be at position B, and it's steps. And I think that it's the thing for me, interestingly, that separates a teacher from an agent. Because an agent wants to know, what can you do now?
Yes.
What
Now,
can I put you in right now? Whereas a teacher goes, what will you be able to do in 3 weeks' time? Or what will you be able to do in a year's time? Let's get you there. And I think it's a really different mentality.
It's something...
It's something we do on the accreditation program, is that whole business of steps and breaking stuff
Yes,
down.
absolutely.
Can I just leap in here, Kevin? Because I know you want to say something as a vocal trainer as well. It's something I think about a lot as a teacher, and it does have to be managed well within the one-to-one situation. But you watch and you listen to a singer and you work with them, and I think you form a trajectory. For example, when someone comes into a session and maybe they're hitting E5, and you know damn well there's an A-flat 5 in that voice. How do you know that? Is it just experience, or is it something that you're listening for? Wow, how do we do that?
Do you know what? We're unicorns, aren't we?
Yeah.
Are we special? No. I take that back. No, but do you know what? It's funny you should say that, because I think about this all the time, and I think how often you hear the sounds that the singer makes, the student makes, and you think, oh, I can hear there's potential in there for more. I don't know how it is that I can hear that there's potential for more, but I do know that when you do have those gut instinct feelings, it's worth exploring. And hey, look, I'm the first person to say, I was wrong. But actually, I think in those moments when we're looking at, oh, I think there's more, I think we can find other colors, other setup choices, other whatever it is, let's not discount anything. Never. Let's never discount anything, because I don't want to shut the doors on anything. I want to say, look, where we're at is great for today. It's possible that is the vocal range. Maybe that's what it is. Your structures are still growing, but maybe that's what it is. And that's cool. That's great. But also, here are some thoughts or tools or exercises that we can do to explore those other potentials. And maybe we did make quick discoveries. Maybe we suddenly go, oh my goodness, did you know you could do that? I love when those happen, but they don't always happen. There might be observations that those singers can make that they go, oh, I don't know that I'm ready for that now, but let's come back to that. Do you know what I really love in teaching is when it's a collaborative experience between the teacher and the student. Sometimes you do have students that they come in, especially in first year, where they've decided I'm going to come to that school and you're going to teach all over me and make me the thing I want to be. But actually, in time, when they get to the point where they have a collection of information, a knowledge base to grow from, I like it when it becomes that sort of relationship where I can say, what do you think? How would you, now if you were me, what do you think I would say? Or how would you approach this? What are the options that we've got at our disposal to explore this thing? And I love that sort of thing. And in particular, I love it when the students get done. This does happen quite often, where the students go, hold on, Kevin, I want to do that again. I'm going to change this. and then you just go, yeah, all right, then let's do that. And it may go the way they want it to, or it may not. It doesn't matter. It's just information gathering. And I love when we get that sort of collaborative ball rolling. And it does allow us to go, let's then explore. Let's go hunting. Let's go off on the journey into the jungle and see what happens. Isn't that a great place to be in?
Absolutely. Yes. I love that when you've been able to create that space with an individual. And I just want to say, for any would-be musical theatre performers listening to this, or musical theatre singers listening to this, just because the three of us here had a conversation about range as an example of imagining the potential and visualising the potential, this is not about range prowess. That's not the deal. Sometimes people fall into that trap. We were just using that as a particular example of what a good coach can be doing when they're collaborating with the singer in the room to what they might be able to do with a bit of work.
Do you know what's really, I find quite disheartening, and I'm sure many of your listeners have experienced this as well, is how often we get things like, oh, I can't sing a high B flat, therefore I'm not a good singer. Or I'm quote unquote just a baritone, no one's going to want me. And when you dig into that, why do you think that? Oh, because everything that's being written now wants the baritone to sing whatever note. And you think, there's still a place for you. We haven't got rid of the things that came before that newest writing, that newest thing. We haven't. And I find it quite heartbreaking when you have a student that is got just pots and pots of potential, and they go, yeah, I must be a bad singer because I can't sing whatever. And you just think, oh, goodness me, no, please don't take that on. It's not about how high you can go. It's not that. The other part of that is I often get emails from singing teachers, or we have this wonderful organization here, don't we? The AOTOS, the Association of Teachers of Singing, and full of really wonderful people, wonderful teachers that have been invited to connect with me if they have questions about their own students auditioning for the program and whatnot. And from time to time, there are those kinds of questions. Look, I've got this student who's really wonderful. I think he's got great potential. He struggles with his upper passaggio. Is this viable? Should the student audition? Yes, of course this student should audition. One, doesn't matter if they never get past that upper passaggio. And two, they're probably 17 years old and still growing. I don't know what their world is going to be like in 10 years and 20 years. Oh my gosh, the notes that I was able to sing in my 30s, I never dreamt in my 20s that I could do. And I just find that really sad when that comes up, and I think, oh no, let's not go there.
I really like the way you've spoken about this, so thank you for doing that.
It was something that I was going to bring up, which is you are working with students whose voices are still settling and developing.
Absolutely.
And there's got to be a care system in there which says, you may have those notes. My favourite one is somebody, a 15-year-old boy coming, and I'm going to be a tenor. And I'm going, really?
Well, at least they've decided.
Okay, good. I shall watch then.
Yes, okay. Hey, at least they've got a positive attitude. As long as they're willing to listen. And do the work. No, No, it is, and actually back to some of the conversations that you've previously had, both with Mike and with Claire. Oh, which, by the way, I have to tell you, Claire, if you're listening, I am absolutely now in love with you, because I found myself quietly shouting, yes, 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 yes. I agree.
Yeah,
Let's meet.
absolutely.
You know, but listening to some of the conversations there about should we be creating people that can do almost mimicked copies of what the people before us have done. And I think, I very much feel, no, I think back to the individuality. What do you bring to this role as an actor? What do you bring to this role as a vocalist? Do you have the stamina and the stability and sustainability to manage it and all that kind of stuff? But I think often, again, when you're working with theater students, doesn't matter how often you have the conversation about reminding them it's you and not someone else's version, how they always or often go back to comparing themselves and go, oh yeah, I see what the industry wants. They want the baritones now to sing A flats. And no. Do you? You don't have to do
There's
that.
something I think that's just really interesting. Okay, congratulations on being able to sing A flat 5.
Yes.
Yeah, well done. Is that the only A flat 5 you've got? Is that the only
Yeah.
sound you're making? What does that mean? What's the meaning behind that sound? What's the story behind that sound? Why is your character actually making that sound on that note? So if you can't give me 6 different versions of that A flat, go back to your lessons and start again. Because you need variety. You need the ability to be able to portray on an A flat so many different emotions, so many different situations.
It's the thing that I think Claire described very well, and actually we talked about it with Mike as well.
Sorry, I get cross at that moment.
Because one of the things that Mike said, if you sing it in a different key, 90% of the people won't know. Obviously, within the musical theatre space, if you're working with particular score in a performance, then you will need usually to deliver that so that
Mostly.
they don't have to print things up again. But where was I going? Why is that high note there?
Yeah.
And
Why is it written like that?
why does your character think that high note's there? What's going on? And also,
And if you're
super important.
if you're gonna throw a high note in that's not in the score, you better have a really good reason why you're doing it. That isn't listen to my voice.
Oh, you've been listening to too many
yeah.
Sopranos.
Unfortunately, I'm on TikTok Soprano at the moment.
That's how I feel about riffing. I think, okay, riffing is great as a style,
Yeah.
but in musical theatre, you have to earn the right to do
Yes.
that. And the right
Yeah.
is, does it connect to your story?
Yes.
Does it advance the plot? Do you know, moving on a little bit, but related to this, again, back to some of the conversations that you've previously had, looking at maybe what is our job in teaching, in preparing these students for the industry, and gosh, you think, gosh, there's so much that we have to cover. But what I loved, both Mike and Claire talked about inside everything, at the heart and soul of everything is acting and storytelling. I don't want to go and pay my £200 to sit in the West End and watch someone demonstrate how fabulous they are as a vocalist. I want to live in the story of what it is that I'm seeing. But I think our job as teachers is to make sure that the students do have those tools to be able to work themselves to a safe place, to a healthy, sustainable standard, so that they know their instrument, they trust their instrument, so that when they get to adding on the layers of storytelling, they can just trust it. It's there in their back pocket, and they know that they're not putting themselves in danger. And I think that's important. I do know that there's times within our studios, today we have to focus on a very technical thing, and whatever that is. Today we are just doing on-set. This is not about acting through song. This is not about storytelling. But we also have to be very careful in the studio that we're not divorcing our work,
Yes.
that we're not separating the work that we do as vocal technicians and teachers from the work that we are going to be doing as actors, because inevitably what ends up happening is I go, yeah, I can do it when I'm standing there singing in front of you and the room is lovely and warm and everything is great with acoustics, but then I take it to an acting through song class and suddenly I can't sing it anymore. Let's examine why that is. Oh, what we've prepared in terms of setup in theory is not actually what you're bringing when you start adding your storytelling in. So let's find a way to start integrating this so that you trust your technical theory, so that when you are telling that story, it doesn't change, or it's flexible enough to change in a way that's beneficial rather than detrimental.
100%.
Very interesting.
Can we
point.
hang on, because I need to go here.
Okay, there's somewhere I want to
Needs
go.
to go here. I do not agree with vocal exercises by themselves.
No, you don't. No, you
Absolutely.
never have
I
done.
never
No.
have done in 40 years of coaching. I have never done vocal exercises that are by themselves. The point
Yeah,
of a vocal
yeah.
exercise is for you to be able to put it into context. So as a singing teacher, if you're teaching people and you're teaching them doing warm-ups or you're teaching them doing vocal exercises, if you don't immediately put it into a phrase or put it into a song, then you are completely divorcing technique from reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know? I wonder. I'm only guessing, but I also wonder if that connects to your experience as a music director as well. Claire was talking about working with actors, performers who are approaching the work from an acting base rather than this. What did you say? Acting brain rather than
Acting
singing
brain and singing brain, yeah.
Yeah, and I have to say, I quite love working with people approaching singing from the actor brain.
Us too.
Because it challenges me to find different ways of working. And I definitely, long ago, came to the same conclusion that you've come to as well, in that, okay, my job in that case, maybe as a music director, is to get a performance that this actor feels they can trust and that they are confident in, and they don't feel vulnerable and they don't feel like someone's going to judge them. And oftentimes the technical work to support that, to coach them into it, came always from an acting point, an intention, an impulse. Let's make this sound, but let's make that sound as if we are whatever.
Yeah.
And I think, back to what you said about not divorcing, it paves the way for the singer to see how they can apply
Yes.
it. Whether we're talking about approaching it from the singer brain or the actor brain, they can see, and again, we the people of the theater, we love to have something where we go, I can see why I'm doing
Yes.
it. I can see why I'm doing this exercise. It's going to benefit me, not just in achieving this mix, whatever that is. It's going to benefit me in what I want to do.
And
as an
what I
actor
want to
as well.
say.
What I want
I'm
to
sorry,
say.
you just, it was a little red flag for me. Oh, I need to achieve this mix. Why?
Yes, why?
Why
Yeah,
does your
because
character need...
Jeremy, the answer always comes down to that's how so-and-so sings it on the album. You go,
Don't
okay, let's
care.
have this conversation again. Yeah, don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good for them, but how about you?
Oh, so many moments with mix over decades and decades of teaching. And my advice to other teachers is, tell me about mix.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. How does it sound? How does it sound if it's not mixed? Why are we achieving it? Great. And then, as we said earlier, maybe offering other frameworks. Oh, maybe this is thicker, thinner. Maybe this is M1, M2, or something like that. Let's explore that. No. And to be honest, if the word mix is what resonates with them, and right across the board in a lot of research materials, singers experience things that they call mix. It's a reason why I did a PhD. It's not what I ended up studying. But so many of my singers were coming in saying, oh, but it feels like a mix. And I'm thinking, that's not the way I was trained. I'm sure this and that. And yet they were producing something. And I thought, okay, I need to go and study because there's stuff going on here that I don't know about.
Yeah, it's back to that idea of what belt feels like for me might feel different for you. You know that there's that. I find myself, this is going to sound really wanky, I'm so sorry, but almost on a daily basis, I have to remind myself that when engaging with a student, and we're talking about, when we do this exercise, I feel blank. I have no idea that when I say, oh, I feel a cough or a tickle or a scratch, and they say, oh, I feel a cough or tickle or scratch, we have no idea if we're actually talking about the same thing. And in particular, when we're talking about different vocal qualities in setup, I've definitely learned, I might interpret what I hear and think, to me, that sounds like a head dominant mix. But actually, I've learned to let the student come to the conclusion of what they're going to name it, because it has to be named within relationship to the other sounds that they make. So for now, the one that gets me oftentimes, I perceive something as, oh, that sounds like a head dominant mix. I keep that to myself, and and I say, so what do you call that? And they say, oh, that's my chest dominant mix. And I'm thinking, that's not what it sounds like to me. And then we explore other sounds. And I go, oh, actually, I see what they're talking about. I see what that is. I don't know that it's my place to actually title all of these things because I can't feel what they can feel. And I'll never know what they feel, you know?
I think I do agree with you. Of course, for us as pedagogues, it's quite nice to have these labels. It helps us to sort out things.
Yes. Yeah.
But where was I going with that? A profound thought was definitely arriving.
While you're having your
I think
profound,
it's gone
while your
past me.
profound thought arrives, let me jump in at this one.
Okay.
I ultimately don't mind what you call it,
Yeah.
but there's a difficulty. There are two difficulties. One is it the same every time you do it? If it's the same every time you do it, you can call it Fred, you can label it as Fred, and it
Yes.
will always be Fred.
Yes. Jeremy, I have to tell you, I use the word Fred all the
Oh,
time.
I'm so pleased. I've
Fred
been
and
using
Ginger.
Get out of my brain.
Fred for decades. Actually, I need to say no more because I think you probably picked up that thought,
Okay.
left my brain and went into yours.
And the second issue with it is, what is a head dominant mix to you? If somebody else says, I want you to do a head dominant mix, and you do your head dominant mix, and they went, no, that's not what I meant at all.
Yeah.
The difficulty with these labels is that they're entirely personal. They're also ultimately entirely meaningless, except to you.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, if every time somebody says to you, I want your head dominant mix, you produce the same thing, then that's your label and it's accurate.
Yeah,
If they give you a label to do and you translate it as that, you don't know that you're actually even communicating the same thing.
Yes, absolutely. Jeremy, I have nothing more to say on that because you've said it far better than I did. That's exactly what I mean. Thank you. Hey, you two, have you thought about writing books?
There'll be a book in there somewhere.
Yeah, definitely a book in there somewhere. I'm just thinking, maybe, Kevin, it would be interesting. I don't know how you feel about this. When we were talking off record, setting up for this podcast, you mentioned that you'd originally signed up for 5 years at GSA. That was the contract.
Yeah.
You've now been there for 7 years. Obviously, you've been managing and growing a department in a particular direction, and I love all the things you've spoken about. What's on your wish list for the department in the future? Dare I, put you there?
Are we allowed to know?
Oh gosh, that's a lot. Do you know what? I don't know if this is a wish list or a rant. Is there a difference? I don't know.
Not really, not in my
A
book.
rant's a welcome, yeah.
Do you know, my wish list is that somehow there was more time. Our world keeps adding expectation. The way we teach now is different than the way we taught 20 years ago or 30 years ago, 50 years ago. Not that anything was wrong before, but because we need to do more. What I would love to see is a better way or a way of structuring, maybe it's time management and the idea of time. So yes, there's more that's being added to the workload. So where once we had to cover a range of potential legit styles and something we've called contemporary, and then something that's really shifty called contemporary legit. Now I also have to cover not just one style of generic pop, but I could literally do 3 years of pop rock as a music theater degree. I literally could do it 3 years. And rap and R&B and all this kind of stuff. And there's just such pressure on time for students to explore these things that they never really get a chance to live in the exploration because no sooner have you started, you got to move on to the next thing. And we've got to cover these things, not to make them experts, but just so they have a chance to dabble their toes in the water and say, what is this like and how do I connect to it? Because I might need it later on in the future. The other part of time is, and this is a big conversation, as we are adding things, dance is a really good example. The buzzwords right now are commercial dance. So, always has been, most of the schools have always taught jazz, tap, ballet, and then within jazz it breaks down into various different forms of jazz. And now we're adding on to it this commercial style dance because we're seeing it show up in professional theater work, we're seeing it in film, musicals, and all this stuff. We need to expose our students to this. We need to give them the opportunity. So we keep adding things, but then it means the schedule gets tighter and tighter and tighter. We're rarely taking things away. I can't say, you know what, we're adding commercial, let's get rid of tap. We still need to do that as well. So the schedule gets quite tight. And what it means is that the students don't have a lot of time to do private and personal practice. When they finally get a 45-minute lunch break, they just need to sit and have lunch. They need to rest their bodies. They need to rest their voices and not go and spend their 45-minute break in a practice room working on their technical exercises. And then the day finishes at 7 o'clock. They need to go home and have dinner. and do their laundry and watch mindless
Yes.
something on television. But then they also have to learn that monologue and learn the 5 different things they have to do for dance assessment and practice the thing that they've done in technical exercise work. And it's a lot. And what we find is the students, yes, of course they're making progress. Of course we can see the difference from a student at the beginning of first year to the end of third year. But what we don't have is the luxury of freedom for these students to find time for them to create a schedule of solid, good, healthy, smart is the word practice. I wish we could find the answer for this.
Yeah,
you know?
because they have to, on top of all that you've just described, they have to manage somehow to get a decent night's sleep so that they're ready to go at 9 o'clock the next morning.
Yeah. Look, I'm not a fool. I was a student myself too. I know, okay, I've got an acting through song class or a repertoire class tomorrow morning, Monday morning at 10 o'clock, and it's Sunday. I know that a lot of times they go, this is the only time I have. So they cram something into their head, regurgitate it out for the class, get some feedback and notes, and move on to the next thing. You know, which isn't really good use of time, is it? That is so hard. You know, so you said, what do you dream of? The impossible. But I think the other thing that would be really great is to continue to strengthen our relationship with this thing we call the industry.
Yes.
We are very lucky to have really fabulous resources available to us. Different casting agencies, organizations come to our school and they support our students, and they're so generous with graduating students. Agents that we bring down for Agent Feedback Day, where they're providing feedback kindly to the students and all that kind of stuff. We are so lucky to have those kinds of things. But actually, to create a way where we are really connecting with the casting agents, the directors, the music directors, the vocal coaches, on really where they see things going, what they want from us, or how we can support them and support the students. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so that it's all aligning and all growing together, rather than, we could talk about this for ages, but rather than you're preparing people for something specific within this 2-year space and hoping that those people are going to get the work.
I had a thought.
The educators should be growing together with the producers.
Together,
Yeah.
yes. Together,
I had a thought about this, and it was really interesting with you describing everything that's happening. I'm wondering whether the role of a drama college now, like yours, has changed from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever, that their role then was to put out actors who were rounded and ready to go in the profession. And it sounds to me now like your role has changed in that you are doing a grounding for everybody. And because the spread of what people have to now be able to do or to be able to learn is so wide that what you're doing is a very solid grounding in everything, but you are not necessarily putting out the finished actor to go straight into a leading role in a musical age 21.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. And we do see actors graduate from these programs into pretty big roles, and what a wonderful thing for those actors. But again, back to the idea that there's a learning experience. There's a lot of young actors graduating from drama schools here, going into these big roles going, wow, this is different than what I did at school. Do you know what we can't do? I don't know any school that can do this. We cannot give our students a replica of a professional industry experience, as in none of us can give our students a 6-month to a year-long run. None of us can give them the experience of what it's like to do rehearsals the way that we do in a professional environment. Yes, we give them professional experiences by standard of professional behavior. Yes, we bring in professional external creatives to work on things to help introduce the students to some of these professional concepts. But the rigors that are required to make it through the kind of tech week that we might have, or tech weeks that we might have on a professional West End or Broadway show, we can't. We can't give them that experience. And a lot of these young people go out there and go, wow, I gave too much. I gave too much in tech, like you said. Now I don't know what to do, you know. And you go, there, you've learned, but let's have a conversation about it. But,
So interesting. It has been such a joy talking to you and sharing the stuff and all the things that not just you're going through, but actually the responsibilities that the students have and the level of things that they need to do is just so fascinating. And I do think the industry is changing.
Yes.
Which is,
How wonderful. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, during the pandemic, the world started to look at itself,
Yes.
I think. And I love that I hear it called the social revolution.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we are looking at, globally, we were looking at all things, let's say EDI and whatnot, but actually we were forced into a position as drama schools to hold a mirror up to our behaviors as teachers, up to the practices that we maintain, up to the exercises, the pedagogies, and all that stuff. And at first it was a little bit scary. I'm not going to lie. We were thinking, oh, I've taught like this for 20 years. How am I going to change? But then going through those changes, when actually this has reinvigorated my work and I'm falling in love with it a little bit more. But yeah, you're right. The industry is changing in how we see actors and how we respond to actors and how we work with actors. I love that we are much more in support of the notion of covers and swings. That, again, it isn't so much the show must go on. You've got to fight through that torn ligament or whatever it is. I'm glad that we are moving in a much more positive, let's say, actor-friendly way. I think that's great. We have more work to do, don't we? Yeah. We have more work to do. But I'm really excited again, like we said, the MTEA conference last year, just really how exciting it was. I know what I was going to say that sort of tacks onto this as well, and then I'll stop blathering at you, was back to this idea of connecting to the industry and finding out what it is that they have to say and what it is that they want. We've also had a lot of conversation about, should it be the industry telling the education world what is required, or should it be the education world informing the industry of what we're willing to put out? Whether that's talking about body types or skill or whatnot. And I think that's a really interesting conversation to further. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't know what the answer is. There's definitely a symbiotic relationship between these two things. But yeah, I think it is a conversation that needs to be furthered, I think.
Absolutely agreed.
fantastic.
I think that's a wrap. Is that a wrap? Does that feel like a wrap?
Oh my gosh, what a treat and what a joy to be with you. Icons that I've followed forever. I just, how wonderful. What a absolute pleasure to chat. And oh my gosh, you might have me showing up at your doorstep ready to do this again tomorrow.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. It's been a joy.
Absolutely.
And we will see you soon. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye for now.
This is A Voice, a podcast with Dr. Gillyanne Kays and Jeremy Fisher.